Labour Party have been in government since July 2024, and in that time they have had both positive and negative reviews. This week I sat down with Cianan Sheekey, Deputy Chairman of the Warwick Labour Society, to discuss what the government is doing on a national level and also why so many people are leaving the party. Cianan, thank you for coming to speak to us today on Voices. To start, would you mind telling us a bit about yourself, your degree, and what your role is within Warwick Labour Society?
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's an honour and a privilege, but my name is Cianan. I'm Cianan Sheekey. I'm a big student journalist here, which I feel like is, really makes me popular around these parts of journalism society. But no, I'm Deputy Chair of Warwick Labour. I do a politics degree and I'm in my second year.
Nice. And we'll be speaking about quite a few things today, getting to know you and sort of the Labour Society's perspectives on pressing issues. First, I'd like to sort of start with an overview of Labour and their time in government and how that's impacting the world around us. Now, Labour has been in government for nearly a year and a half now, with a majority of 174 seats on the 4th of July 2024. What specifically do you think enabled Labour to achieve that majority?
Well, obviously there's the age-old adage that elections are not won by the opposition, they're lost by the government. And obviously the situation that unfortunately faced the country during the latter end of the Tory government was, to be honest, catastrophic. The Truss administration specifically was very damaging to the country, and I think there's damage that's going to be lingering for a long time. And I think that the Conservatives over that whole period were generally very, very destructive towards the country. I think people knew that they needed a change. That's exactly what Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, campaigned on, the idea of change. And I think Labour did have a strong platform that wasn't unreasonable, it wasn't unachievable, but it was a platform of consistent enough change where individuals felt the country would be more geared towards helping them and helping the country itself progress and achieve its aims on the national stage, international stage.
And obviously it had been the first time in 14 years since Labour had been in power. What did that election mean? What did that election win mean to supporters like yourself and others within the society and members to win that election? What did that sort of give you?
I think there's a distinct element of hope. The idea that when one is in opposition, it sometimes can feel like the light at the end of the tunnel of returning to government can feel so far away. And the Labour Party certainly had been through some troubling times during those 14 years of Conservative government. And there's particular individuals who come to mind when I say that. But at the end of the day, we'd come through that. We'd come out as a better party, and we had now had an opportunity to change Britain for the better and enact the policies that we wanted to, that we thought would help the people of this country. And at the end of the day, hope, general over the moonness. It's just an idea that we all wanted it for so long. It finally came about, and it was a great moment. And it was, and I look back on, particularly when the exit poll came out and Big Ben struck at 10 on election night, sort of overwhelming feeling of joy and relief that it had come about as we wanted it to. It was a great moment, I'm sure my members would say.
And since that time, Labour has had what some would call successes, particularly on the foreign policy front, which we'll come on to in a minute. But there's also been what some has described as failures. How would you, as a member of the Labour Party and as a representative of Labour on this campus, rate Labour's time in office so far?
Oh, big question. Good question. I think there's a separation. There's two things we can rate here. One, our actual policies, and two, our ability to communicate those policies. The people of society, it's not their job to be constantly updated on the policy of the government. That's what the government's job is to do, is to make sure people are aware of what we're trying to do. And I think the actual policy direction is very, very successful. And we've seen notable successes. You mentioned foreign policy, trade deals the Conservatives never managed to achieve in their 14 years of government, not only with the United States, but also India, but also the renewal of the National Health Service, and also the integration of Sure Start into our welfare policies to ensure that individuals all have a good chance at education from the lowest levels. Policies like that are, I think, objectively good. I don't think anyone can really stand here on their own 2 feet and say that they're bad policies. Our inability to communicate has been disastrous. I'd say it has been definitely in the low numbers. I'd say somewhere between 1 and 3. It's not a good area for the Labour Party at the moment. Communication is really bad. That's why it's important we have grassroots members like myself and other people in Warwick Labour to communicate the positive policies that are being implemented. Room for improvement, certainly. No one's perfect, and I'm not claiming that we are. But I think on policy delivery, I'd say it's definitely somewhere like a 7.
And we'll come on to a bit of the disagreement that you faced here at Warwick shortly, but let's widen our scope first to sort of a national level. I know that's something that you're not involved in on a national level, but Labour is facing quite substantial pressure from both the left and the right. From your perspective, does Labour have a strong chance at winning the next election as they currently stand?
I mentioned my avid sort of idea that I want to go into journalism as a career, and it's something I actively pursue here on campus. And I actually wrote an article talking about Keir Starmer. And I said in the article, I wrote it down, I said that I still think he will win the next general election, and I stand by that at this point in time. It's very easy to look at polling data. It's very easy to look at someone when they're in the middle of their term, but that's not when ballots are cast. We have a lot of time to fix the errors that may have been made, and a lot of time to continue the good work that we're doing and improve on our political communication. There's threats from all ends of the political spectrum. Completely agree with that. But I think when it comes to election day, when one is voting on a YouGov poll, one is voting for effectively, are they happy with the government or are they against the government? When one is voting at a general election, they're voting for who they believe should govern the country. And I think the majority of this country, when the next election comes in, assumedly 2029, would believe that Labour is the right option for that choice.
Let's move away from Labour just very briefly. You've obviously, as you mentioned before, written quite a lot of articles in both the Boer perspectives and elsewhere. Sort of from a journalism perspective, as you said, why do you think it's so important for students to share their opinions in sort of formats like that?
Like I said, it's one of the biggest parts of journalism is trying to incite people to feel like they have the power to express their opinions, whether it be with something that's more research or investigative or ability to voice their own opinions in the written medium. In the current political climate, we are faced with the idea that everything is politicised. I don't think there's anything out there that isn't politicised. And a great way that you can have the time to deliberate and truly think about what you actually believe in and express that to other people. You have the time to deliberate and to pen what you believe is correct and what you believe people should be believing in, because that's what you place as your value structure. The fact that you can do that through the written media and have the time and the delicacy to deliver that, I think is so important, and it's a great way of developing not only your ability to communicate with others, but also ability to express yourself, which is surprisingly difficult, and to actually sit there and actually ask the questions in this politicised world in which there's nothing that isn't political. What do I believe?
And so at Warwick Journalism, we have a program run by our president, James, called Across the Pond, where we focus on American politics. Now, in one of your pieces in the Boer, you go into details in the Prime Minister's attempts to build close connections with the United States and specifically President Trump, saying that the balancing act is admirable, as you say. Could you perhaps explain a bit more about what you mean by this balancing act, as you call it?
Well, ideologically, I think people in Britain are not a fan of President Trump. And what I mean by admirable, it's obviously for the best intentions of both the United States of America and the United Kingdom that we maintain our special relationship. There are two nations on earth that have a relationship like we do. Our history is so defining. We've fought side by side in so many different conflicts. And there's a separation that needs to be had, where Keir Starmer, as an elected official in the UK, has to respect the views of the public in the sense that they aren't a massive fan of Trump, but he also has to look at what is the best for the country. And in terms of defence, in terms of the economy, and in terms of so many other important areas, that is having a good relationship with the Americans, particularly in a post-Brexit era, regardless of what you personally believe on the EU referendum. That has happened now, and we need to put that issue to a side and focus on how we can improve our standing in the current geopolitical world. And the best way of doing that, in my opinion, is through President Trump. And there's also a separation that I think is important to note, that the office of the President of the United States is held by the individual who the American electorate put faith in. As a respect to the American people, we have to respect that office. It's very important. And President Trump is not that office. He's one holder of it, and in a few years, Constitution, if it's still intact, he won't be. So that's something to remember. We can't just tarnish our relationship because we don't agree ideologically with the person who's currently in the White House.
Let's return to Labour Soc and sort of Warwick. Let's return to Warwick. Now, I don't want to go into the rebrand too much because there's obviously been quite a bit of conversation on it already. But you were mentioned by Lola Fallon by name in the interview that I did before. From your perspective, why did you decide to leave what was then the Labour Society at Warwick?
Well, first of all, it was a great interview. I did watch it. I was sat there watching it, and then I heard my name pop up and went, oh, I know that guy. The old Warwick Labour, again, very complicated to explain with all the new terms, but then Warwick left. I have so many fond social memories there. I think they're all very great people who have a particular vision for what they believe is best for the country, and I respect them for that. They've gone out for what they believe in, and they've stood on their own 2 feet and said that this is what we stand for, and I can't help but respect that. However, as an individual in that society, I felt my views as a loyal member of the Labour Party who thought that change was best. The best vehicle of change was the Labour Party. My views weren't inherently being listened to, and the manner in which the change happened wasn't done democratically. There's a lot written about this, and individuals will debate it, and I'm not trying to reopen this sort of kind of worms But effectively, I didn't feel like I was listened to as a Labour member, and I know there's several members, both on the executive committee, or what were on the executive committee, and members properly who shared that view. So that's why we decided to form Warwick Labour.
And so that happened. And then one of the first things that you did that many have commended you on was your statement on the Instagram page where you condemned the scenes in Gaza, saying, as a society, we want to make it unequivocally clear that we condemn the Israeli government's genocide and man-made famine in Gaza. Why did you, as a society, make that decision to have that as your first public statement? And why was there such a what many would describe as a significant shift between sort of the Labour government's tone on this matter and your tone?
When we initially announced the society, there were some individuals who personally attacked individuals of our executive committee, deeming us as genocide apologists or something to that effect. We may be loyal to the Labour Party, but we are by no means the Foreign Secretary. We by no means work in the Foreign Office. To suggest that we are individually responsible, we personally thought was pretty heinous, and we didn't want individuals of our executive committee, some of which aren't, although they are engaged in politics, aren't so committed to it in the sense that it's their number one priority in life, to feel like they were being labelled all these terms. It's important we made the statement for that reason, but also to show that we aren't just the Labour Party in the sense that we aren't government lackeys. That's not why we exist. There's a difference between constructive criticism and blind loyalty. We are not blindly loyal. We have our own opinions as a society, and although we believe that, as I previously mentioned, the Labour Party is the best agent of change, we personally believe at the time the policies that were being enacted by the government in relation to that particular conflict were too slow. We were taking all the time in the world to deliberate what we were believing in, who we were standing with, and what was a genocide and what wasn't. I personally believe it was too slow. Action should have been taken quicker, and now the action has been taken, which includes the banning of sales of arms to Israel, and also the declaring of it as a genocide and a man-made famine. That should have just been done earlier and communicated more effectively. All of those reasons combined is the reason why.
And sort of what can we expect to see from Labour society as a new society in the future? What would you sort of pitch it as?
Well, the previous iteration, didn't have a particularly strong engagement with other student political societies. At the end of the day, yes, we are only one society at one university, and I'm not going to suggest we're going to have a massive ability to influence the government. However, we can in our own little way, not only constructively with other people on campus. We've already held brilliant events with the Warwick Liberal Democrats and the University of Warwick Conservative Association, including a Warwick Parliament Amendment, which was just a brilliant opportunity for us all to sit there and debate in a constructive, jolly, and generally well-spirited manner. So that kind of thing is what we expect. We also have a lot of really strong links with the Labour Party in the sense that people will have an opportunity to canvass, develop their skills, their political skills and communication, as well as meeting several MPs. We've already had John Slinger, Mary Cray, and also Lucy Powell, who, at the time this goes out, will probably be the deputy leader of the Labour Party, already attend in the first half of the first term. So a lot of opportunities for people to get involved and meet political heroes, discuss with people they may not see as political heroes, and have constructive conversations, and develop people's skills, while also retaining a nice, positive social environment.
Cianan, thank you for joining us on Voices. It's been great to have you and been great to hear your insights. Thank you very much.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.